Hi everyone. Our group thought it would be beneficial if we went ahead and also recorded our presentation in case you felt the need to go back and review exactly how to go about evaluating LMS. So what we plan on doing in our presentation is first describing what exactly an LMS is, then going into two particular goals that every LMS should have, pedagogical goals. How exactly are the people going to learn through an LMS? And then what the administrative goals are. What goals does the person administering the content have? And then we're going to kind of combine sections 3 and 4 because many of the LMS out there have very similar features. So we figured that by describing some of the more prominent features that most LMS have, those would also be pretty good features to also include when evaluating whether or not you should have that LMS for your particular needs. So first of all, what exactly is an LMS? An LMS is a learning management system, and it is software that administers training and education curriculum in a centralized location. And this software can either be proprietary, meaning free, or open source. Now, the problem is that proprietary software usually costs a lot of money. However, you do get um, customer service usually and tech support, so that's a plus. Open source is a little bit more beneficial from a cost standpoint. However, tech support and customer service is a little bit lacking usually for open source locations, but not all the time. I actually use an LMS myself that's open source. It does have some pretty top-notch customer service and tech support. Um, and furthermore, most LMS also have uh, various features such as progress monitoring, calendars, and social media, um, things that help administratively organize yourself in a virtual world. Now, there's actually a whole slew of LMS out there. In fact, I came across a gentleman who was compiling a list of all the new LMS that were popping up. He was compiling this list to try and give business entrepreneurs and educators a place to go to find out what the best LMS would be. And after a while, he just became overwhelmed because what turned into a 1 or 2 page document just of all the LMS that were out at the time has now grown into a 24-page document. So this is the new tech boom as far as software is concerned. However, most LMS, no matter what it is, who makes it, can really be divided up into two categories. LMS that business entrepreneurs use and LMS that educators use. And here we have some of the biggest learning management systems. These account for about 80% of the users who use an LMS either for business or education. Now, as I said, every LMS should have an overarching goal, and that goal should be to learn and manage. Okay, and so first we'll go ahead and talk about how an LMS can enhance learning in a virtual environment. One particular study that we came across from the Institute of Information Media Studies argues that oftentimes people who use learning management systems use it just for their administrative purposes, the managing part. And what happens is the engagement of learners really starts to lessen. And he feels that in a virtual environment, that type of environment really lends itself to a social constructivist approach, meaning that learners are active in the education process. They go ahead and actively look at ways to solve problems given resources for them. And an LMS or learning management system really lends itself nicely to giving a learner resources to go ahead and research new and novel type problems, the learning part. And so one of the goals you have to ask yourself before you start using an LMS is, how am I going to use this to actually increase learning, whether it be in the business area or the education area. Like I said, make sure it's the focal point. And here we have a summary of things that I just mentioned. That a social constructivist believes that learning is a social and active process and should not just be managed. You have to actually actively engage the learner into doing something. And so in that LMS should have some opportunities for problem-solving activities. And to do this, you should provide your learners with a variety of tools in order to self-govern themselves and empower them by enabling them to do independent work, reflection, instruction, and affording them collaboration opportunities. And what this study goes on to say is tools that would go about fulfilling those needs would be things like weblogs, wikis, social bookmarking, and things like that. All of which usually you can put into a top-notch learning management system. Most learning management systems already have areas for you to put that stuff. However, even though the main goal of an LMS should be the learning component, we would be remiss in not admitting that learning management systems make life much, much easier when learning in a virtual environment. And so the managing part ensures that a complete learning environment is taking place. And so the managing part also provides support and flexibility to manage that course content. Because if you're providing all these resources for learners to become active and engaged, it can get kind of out of hand if you don't have a centralized location to keep them organized. So some of the features that most learning management systems have are the creation of class rosters, where you can easily add and remove students to different class sections. You can also upload any media, notes, curriculum to a learning management system. And there's also various organization types things, such as course calendars, syllabi. There's also different ways to deliver content of that material, whether it be through a chat room, through a discussion board, and things like that. There's also analytics and progress monitoring so that you know if your active learner, hopefully, is achieving what you set them out to achieve. So the managing part is also very important for a learning management system. And so I also say that learning management systems often have additional features that satisfy goals relating to knowledge management, performance, and evaluation. And some of these things we had already mentioned. Okay, but for the business end, there are things such as manager access to approved materials and participation, integration with a human resource system for tracking employment eligibility, performance goals, and similar corporate priorities. So it's also important in the business world for an LMS because it also allows learners to engage themselves actively in that particular arena as well. And so taking both these goals into consideration, we come up with an evaluation list that you should look for when purchasing a learning management system. And first of all, in the learning criteria area, you should make sure that any LMS that you use has a space to put all of your resources. Then also has some sort of social networking tool such as blog posting, discussion forums, and chat rooms, things that make the learning active. And that also goes in hand with collaboration tools. So not only can collaboration happen, through a blog posting, discussion forum, but collaboration can also happen in real time. That would include chat rooms or collaborating by linking your LMS with things like Google Docs. And that would lead into the last point, where a good LMS has the ability to link third-party tools such as Google Docs, Delicious, which is a social bookmarking website. Things that you don't have to go somewhere else for. You shouldn't have to need to start a separate program. Your LMS should either have it in there or link with it directly. And furthermore, there's also the managing criteria that every LMS should have. And that would be the ability to easily manage and enroll users. You have a lot of students usually when you're using a learning management system, so it's very important to be able to easily manage them. Also, to organize your learners and yourself. That would be the ability to post calendars, announcements, and any other kind of training materials they might need. What's also important is that in order to make sure your active learners are actually achieving the goals you set out for them, it's also important to progress, monitor them, to assess them, and track their progress throughout the whole entire system. And it's also important since you hope that your learners are going to be active learners and use social networking type tools, that it might be helpful to actually group those learners. So a good LMS will let you group those learners according to your needs, whether it be geography, ability level, or any other number of factors. And so while the learning and the managing would be the most important areas, there are some miscellaneous things that you should consider, and we kind of touched on some of them earlier. First is the cost of an LMS. Like I said, some are open source and free, while others do cost a pretty penny. You should also be able to customize your LMS. Many learning management systems offer a plethora of things. Not everyone needs all those things. So if you plan on paying for one, don't go ahead and purchase something that you might not ever need. Conversely, make sure that if you're going to start using a learning management system, it has all the things that you need. So in other words, one size does not fit all. And also, make sure you know where your technical support is going to come from. Like I said, oftentimes free learning management systems don't come with free technical support. They might have a help guide or things like that, but there's going to be some work on the user's part or the administrator's part to find that technical support out themselves. There might not be a phone number or a live person to actually come and fix things for you. So keep that in mind when you decide to use one of these systems. And so briefly, I just wanted to go over one of the learning management systems specifically that I use, and I use a learning management system for my classroom called Canvas. And so some of the things that my learning management system has is almost exactly all of the criteria we listed on our evaluation list. It has a space for learners to look up the resources that I give them in either files here or in the modules. It has social networking tools such as discussion boards and chat rooms. It has collaboration tools. I can actually group students and they have a room where they can go ahead and do their work. And it has the ability to link third-party tools for added resources. It's got Google Docs, Skype, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Delicious, and Diigo. And on the managing side, it does give me the ability to easily manage and enroll users. Here I just simply click people and I have all the users in my particular courses, and I'm able to manage them and rearrange them however I see fit. Of course, it also allows me to keep very organized. I can post announcements up here, which automatically goes to the syllabus and generates an automatic calendar. I can also assess and progress and monitor all of my students. They can see their grades as well as so can I. I can assess them, giving them any number of quizzes, creating any number of formatting in those quizzes, and I can also have online conferences with them. And like I also said, a good LMS also has the ability to group learners. And if I were to click on people, it actually does have a section to create student groups. Any number of ways to go ahead and do that. And so here are the sources that we use, and you can review those at your leisure. And so hopefully this has been a good introduction on how to go about selecting an LMS. Thanks.